Okay, so part 1 refuses the upload, so I'm just gonna continue on my phone with MobbyZen, which should I use MobbyZen in the first place? The only thing is that I've recorded today's school video, and I haven't uploaded it yet, and I don't know if I can upload 2 videos at once on different different devices or not, so I'm not gonna risk it. So this video could be really short. Alter the Spare Girls actually wasn't the next thing in the series. It was actually a series of books released from 2013 to 2020 called Danganronpa Kirigiri, which was a prequel series that took 3 years. Took place 3 years before Trigger Happy Havoc, about Kirigiri attempting to stop an organization that specialized in murders. I actually don't know what happened because I couldn't finish it because the last couple volumes weren't translated at all. But back to Ultra Despair Girls. So the Warriors of the Wall saw Junko was like a savior, and they all started calling her Big Sis Junko, and they wanted to look up to her. So they were responsible for making sure that the people that were kidnapped for the first motive were kidnapped. But anyway, they explained that they're trying to kill all the adults, and despite the fact that Komaru is probably about 13, that's old enough for her to be classified as an adult by them because they're about 5. So I'm going to take a lot of pauses to try and make this video as short as possible, by the way. Nagato is their servant because this takes place before D2. Anyway, for some reason, the game reminds me of the anime High Rise Invasion, so if you've seen that, then that will help you get an idea of what I'm talking about. And that sign was my bike review. Anyway, so they drop her down into the city where she meets up with Genocide Jack. And they go around looking to try and escape the city. And they meet up with the brother of Ai Asahina, the ultimate swimmer, who was a survivor of Hope's Peak. They meet up with her brother, and he tries to swim out of the city, but he explodes because he has a bracelet on him, and so does Komaru. So if you go outside the city limits, you will explode. But eventually, they run into one of the Warriors of Hope, who enters this big machine that go and fight him, but he gets defeated, and he reveals that he is the adult because his dad was abusive. And I know I'll talk about this in my middle and end review, but I'm just going to repeat it. So there's not really much for plot because basically the entire game is them trying to get out. So second boss, I'm trying to remember what it was. So chapter 3 boss is a kid who had this mask on his face because his mum told him that he is so ugly. If anyone looks at his face, they will die. So they defeat him, and his mask gets pulled off, and he is the exact opposite of ugly. I'm not going to say anything more than that because I know that if people end up watching this video, they're going to call me names. But anyway, chapter 3 is a kid who was treated as an experiment by his parents. He was forced to study 24/7, just to try and see what a child's breaking point is. Yeah. Chapter 4 is a woman who is an actor, and it's also, I really don't want to say this, because I'm afraid this video might get taken down, considering she is like, I know I said 5 earlier, but I'm pretty sure they're all 10. I'm going to try and say this as politely as I can. Her mum got money by men who would have their way with her 10-year-old daughter. Yeah. But that's not how the chapter ends. The chapter, I don't know, whatever. So, turns out Nagato actually contacted Genocide Jack and said, "We've captured Togami," because Genocide Jack has a crush on Togami. Anyway, we've captured him. If you want to get him back, meet up with Kamaru. You'll meet her at this place, which is the rooftop where they met, and make sure she kills the Warriors of Hope. All that. They don't die, but whatever. Anyway, they make their way to the last Warrior of Hope, Monica Toa, who is disabled, or at least pretending to be disabled in order to get sympathy. And she is the one who coerced the other 4 into killing themselves before Junko appeared and saved them. Because Monica tricked the other 4 in the believing we were killing the adults in order to inspire hope for the kids. But really her motive was to inspire despair in the adults. So yeah. Probably should have mentioned this earlier, but she is brainwashing all the kids through a remote control and a helmet. And she says, if you break that remote control, yeah, the brainwashing will stop, but all the kids will die. But Kamaru decides not to break the remote. Similar to D2, within Ultra Spirit Girls was a novel that takes place a bit before and possibly during the events of the game, called Ultra Despair Hagakure. Or at least that's what this says, but I don't think that's actually what it was called. I don't know, but whatever. Hagakure was the ultimate fortune teller who was another survivor of Hope's Peak. And he was deployed to the Toa City in order to save the people who were captured, to be used as the first motive. And he ran into the motive for Leon, who was his cousin. But he didn't know that at the time. So they start to survive together, and eventually she realizes that he's a member of Future Foundation. He realizes that she is Leon's cousin, who vows to kill all the members of the Future Foundation for allowing Leon to die because she has a crush on Leon, despite the fact that she is his cousin. Anyway, so they're fighting, but then the Warriors of Hope appear to try and kill them, but they work together to not. And I don't remember how it ends. I'm doing like 99% of this from memory. Anyway, next up is... I don't think that's it, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Danganronpa Togami, which is a prequel novel trilogy about how Togami got his name. That's it. So, the way the Togami family works is that the head of the family has sex with over 100 women and has a bunch of bastards with them. And all the bastards are invited to this island, not Jabberwock, a different island, in order to compete for who will become the head of the Togami family. And while they're all there, one of them dies, and it starts off this investigation, including the person who would become Byakuya. And the reason why I say the person who would become Byakuya, I know I'm butchering these names, but whatever. The reason why I'm saying person who would become is because that actually wasn't his name. Because eventually he gets thrown in this dungeon. By the way, I didn't actually read any of it. It all came from summaries from that Tumblr bitch. But anyway, he gets put in this dungeon, and there's this girl, and she says, "Oh, if you give me your name, if you let me steal your name, however that works, I'll tell you the future." And he does it, and those things that she says happens, and he decides his new name, Byakuya Togami. So, yeah. Next up, Kirigiri-Sue, which is a sequel to a game that was made before Danganronpa that I didn't play. And also, this is really confusing because it's a sort of choose your own adventure thing, but I don't actually know what the true ending is. So, this guy's driving down a road, he meets Kirigiri, they go up to his mansion, some stuff happens, and yeah. Next up, Danganronpa 1, 2 Beautiful Days, which, as far as I know, was basically like for the 1-2 remaster. They got a bunch of people to write fan fiction, basically, and made a novel out of that. The only thing is that Wikipedia says that this is a novelization of the second game. Except it isn't at all. So there are a bunch of different stories in it, which I'm guessing are all non-canon. I can't really... Actually, yeah, it is non-canon. Nothing to really talk about there because it's so broad. Next up, Danganronpa the animation, the novelization. I haven't read it, it's just a novelization of the animation, which, yeah. Next up, Danganronpa Rearranged, Hope's Peak Academy, School Festival coming soon. I have no idea what it is, despite the fact that this provides a link to it to Tumblr. The layout of it was very confusing, so I decided not to read it, I think. Or watch, whatever. Next up, Danganronpa the Stage, which is a theatre play of the first game. Nothing to talk about there, except for the fact that they changed it up a bit, and I feel like the changes were justified. So it was pretty accurate for the first 2 chapters, but then at the end of the second chapter, the hall monitor sacrifices, or doesn't sacrifice. The hall monitor dies at the end of the second chapter. The third chapter doesn't happen. Instead, Celeste and the fanfic writer die at the end of the fourth chapter, because the rules for the class trial have been rewritten so that if you vote incorrectly, you die. So that's why those 3 died. and then chapter 5 doesn't happen, and Junko just decides to reveal herself. And from there on, it's basically the same. Next up, Super Danganronpa 2, Sayonara Setsubu Gakuen, which I'm going to assume translates to Super Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Which, stage version of it, I tried to watch it, but it wasn't translated into English, because for the first play, the subtitles were in English, but not for this. Next up, Danganronpa Kibu no Gakuen to Setsubu no Kokisei, which I'm going to guess is the same as the first stage, but it's the first play, but instead, these give years on it. The first time was 2014, then Super Danganronpa 2 was 2015, and then this 2016. I'm going to guess that the reran the first play. Anyway, then Super Danganronpa 2 Sayonara Setsubu Gakuen 2017. Didn't watch it. By the way, I don't know if the version of the first one I watched was from 2014 or 2016. Next up, Danganronpa 3 Gaiden Killer Killer, which is a manga about a serial killer who's killed serial killers, not unlike Dexter. Once again, I didn't read it at all. It was just summaries, but I think there is an English version out there. So, next up is you have to alternate between the future arc and the despair arc of Danganronpa 3, then Big Academy, which is an anime. So future arc 1, despair arc 2, future arc 1, despair arc 1, future arc 2, so on. Until despair arc episode 4. But I'll just explain the entirety of despair and future arcs. In the despair arc, it shows a new teacher who gathered the 16 students from D2, and it was all fine until, remember I was talking about how the Ultimate Yakuza's sister was killed? Yeah. That happened. And then Junko and Ashima enrolled in the school. And the school covered up the murders, making some BS excuse. But Junko found out the truth. She also found out about the Ultimate Hope. And she discovered the ultimate artist, or ultimate anime creator, whatever. Ultimate animator, I think. I don't know. Because the ultimate imposter was impersonating him at the time. Yeah. So Junko was able to see him and think, oh, he's an animator. He's the ultimate animator. And she goes up to him and is like, basically, anime sucks. Oh yeah, just watch my anime. I'll prove you wrong. And she does, starts crying. And then on a second watch, she's able to understand what was so powerful about it, which is hypnosis. So what she does is basically forces him to make hypnosis videos for her in order to trigger the despair. So she gathers everyone in the student council, puts them in one room, kidnaps their entire family, and tells them if they don't kill each other. Okay, so it's YouTube. Tells them if they don't kill each other, their families will die, so they all kill each other. There's something on my window. Whatever. They all kill each other. She records it. The Ultimate Hope was watching, and she actually pushed blame onto the Ultimate Hope. she put the hypnosis triggers onto that video and sent it to basically everyone. And the hypnosis was, it triggered them to protest against the school because people were spending millions, and those millions were going into creating the Ultimate Hope, and they now think that the Ultimate Hope killed the entire student council. But anyway, eventually, Junko also kidnaps Mikan, the Ultimate Nurse, and the class start to worry about her because she's disappeared for quite a while. So their teacher goes out to look for her, and she finds her. But Junko kidnaps her and forces her to watch the despair video. So she's now in despair. She then kidnaps Chiaki, and makes the teacher pretend to be normal in order to lead Chiaki out of the place that they were kidnapped from. But what really happens is that Chiaki goes through an elevator that brings her to a deadly maze. So anyway, the rest of the students go looking for Chiaki and the teacher, and they're led into the class trial place, and it's showing a video of Chiaki navigating the deadly maze where hypnosis triggers were placed onto it so that they can't look away, and then eventually Chiaki dies, and that triggers all of them into despair. And finally, the teacher gives the despair video to someone. I don't remember what he does, but he's a founding member of the Future Foundation. And this all leads up into the future arc where Makoto was told by Future Foundation not to kidnap the remnants of despair, as in the 16 students. He was told to just execute them, but he decided to kidnap them and run them through the Near World program anyway. So they consider this treason, so they brought him to Future Foundation HQ in order to stand trial. But Monokuma appears and forces them to play another killing game, but this time it's slightly different. Every night, a sleeping drug thing will be administered to all of them, but one of them will not receive the drug, and that person will be forced to kill someone. But eventually it's revealed that actually the way it works is that the closest person to a monitor will, they'll be chosen to kill someone, and actually what happens is that the monitor will play another despair video which causes them to kill themselves. But on top of that, there's also special rules for every person. So, for example, Makoto can't run in hallways, and if he does, he'll die. And Kyoko was also here, and her role was Makoto must die by the end of the 4th day. But Makoto doesn't die. So Kirigiri dies. However, according to the 3R video, she lives. Anyway, eventually they realize that, that guy that I mentioned was inflicted with despair. I was just hiding it for so long. And that's all I can really remember. But anyway, before going on to episode 5, you're supposed to read Makoto Naega's Worst Day Ever, which takes place a couple of years before his time. It's probably the earliest thing in the timeline. So Makoto is walking home from school one day and decides to take an alternate route. And that's where he sees his friends playing rock, paper, scissors in order to decide who's going to buy food for everyone. And Makoto decides to join them. And he loses, so he has to go buy the food. So he buys the food, and it's all put in a plastic bag, but the plastic bag rips. It's all knocked down. And some of the stuff rolled next to an old man. So Makoto started speaking to the old man. And eventually the old man gets up and walks away. But he left something. And Makoto decides to try and bring that thing that the old man left to the old man. So he rushes to catch up to him. Eventually they both get on a bus. Makoto is very exhausted after running and is about to collapse. And he instinctively holds out his arm to grab onto something. He grabs onto a bag and rips the bag that was containing expensive like diamonds and stuff like that, because they were all stolen. And the guy that stole them usually has very good luck. But Makoto's bad luck outweighs this guy's good luck. So eventually the guy gets off the bus, takes a bike, and accidentally drives over one of the things that Makoto bought that rolled it onto the street. And this causes the vehicle to tip over and explode. But I don't know if I think I forgot to mention that this was a mail bike containing post. And one of the things in that post box, whatever, was a letter of invitation to the person that was decided to be the ultimate luck. But this person wasn't Makoto, it was someone else. But then they decided that, it's pretty unlucky that her letter burned up. So they decided to invite Makoto. Anyway, next up is the Hope arc, which is the last episode of the Despair arc. But it takes place after the Future arc, where one of the people that was in that killing game was the artist who used hypnosis. And he was planning on using his hypnosis to inspire hope. But Makoto and everyone else decides this is a bad thing. So they decide to stop him. And all of a sudden, the former remnants of despair appear and talk him out of it. Anyway, next up, Super Danganronpa 2.5, Nagato Komaeda and the World Vanquisher. So, Nagato is haunted by the ultimate hope. And then he dies, but eventually realizes that it was a sort of dream that woke him out of the Neo World program. Anyway, next up, Danganronpa 3, Monokuma Gekijo, which are special minisodes, and there's not really much to say about them. Next up, Danganronpa 3, Koichi's departure drama, which is untranslated, so I don't know anything about it. Next up, Cyber Danganronpa VR, which is just a VR version of a very small part of one of the chapters from the first game. Next up is Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. So, Kaede something, the ultimate pianist, wakes up in a new school. I don't think it's Hope's Peak. I don't remember. But anyway, she meets up with everyone, and Monokuma appears, who now has 5 children called Monokubs, but they aren't really important. Anyway, a new killing game starts. So, chapter 1, Shuichi something, the ultimate detective, finds out that there is a moving bookcase in the library. And he figures that this might be where the mastermind is hiding. Sorry, I'm just moving some stuff around. And Kaede decides that she's going to kill the mastermind, and she sets up this elaborate trap so that the mastermind will be tricked over to this place, and then a ball will drop on top of their head. So Rantoro, the ultimate something, he forgets who he is. He was killed. So the class trial happens, and eventually you start playing as Shuichi, who remains the protagonist for the rest of the game. And Kaede is found guilty, executed. Chapter 2, the ultimate tennis pro is found dead, and find out that the ultimate mate did it because everyone had received motive videos. Like, Shuichi got Kaido's video. Kaido was the ultimate astronaut, and it was basically, something has happened to his granddad and granny. If you want to find out, then kill someone. But a couple of people got their own videos, including the ultimate maid, because it turns out she is actually the Prime Minister of Japan, and she is very, she loves being Prime Minister, and she's doing good, but she genuinely cares. So she decided to kill someone who was suicidal in the first place, in order to try and get out. But they find her, and she's executed. Why is my camera turned on? Chapter 3. A couple of people form a student council, which is basically just called because they realised that, the tennis pro died at nighttime, so if we just ban everyone from going out at nighttime, then maybe people will stop dying. But one other leader, the leader was found dead. And the ultimate anthropologist decides to try and do a magic thing in order to bring back her spirit to ask who killed her. But it requires someone to be put in this cage and have a blanket placed over them while everyone else sings a song, or not sings a song, but they say a couple things. But while they're saying the thing, they hear a bang, and they take off the cloth, and it turns out that the person that was in the cage died, and it turns out the ultimate anthropologist did both murders. So chapter 4, Mura or something like that, the ultimate inventor, invents a simulation, which is basically just the Neo World program. And she invites everyone to come in, because apparently there's a secret to the outside world in there. But Yu is found murdered. And it turns out that going to something, the ultimate bug person, or not, a person who's in the bug's not like a living bug, if you know what I mean. Whatever. He did it, but he forgot that he did it because there's like a couple cables that you need to plug into the right place in order to remember everything that you do in the Inner World program. Anyway, in chapter 5, yeah, I'm just making sure I'm in the right chapter. They find the secret of the outside world, which is the meteorites were decimating the entire place, and the government, because this like despair is completely gone. The government decides that we're talking extinction level event, so they take 16 ultimates and put them on a ship that resembles Hope's Peak and sends them into space. So this takes place hundreds of years after everything that I've just said. And then Kokichi Oma, the ultimate supreme leader, just comes out and says, I am the mastermind, and then kidnaps Kaito and runs away. But everyone tries to rescue Kaito, and then they go to where he was being held, and they find someone dead. They don't actually know who, but they can see Kaito's coat hanging. Like the body was crushed in a hydraulic press, so the only evidence is, well, there's more evidence, but basically the only evidence is a bit of Kaito's coat is holding out. So the thing is Kaito. But it turns out it's actually Kokichi, because the two of them came to an agreement. Because both of them were poisoned by the Ultimate Assassin. Because the Ultimate Assassin is in love with Kaito. By the Ultimate Assassin's real name is Maggie. Maggie went to try and rescue Kaito by shooting Kokichi with a poisoned arrow. And she does. But she goes to shoot him again, but Kaito steps in the way. Because he didn't want Maggie to be executed for being a murderer. So she goes to get the cure for the poison, but there only is one dose. And she tries to give it to Kaito, but Kokichi snatches it and pretends to drink it. And then she runs away because there's nothing she can do at that point. And Kokichi says to Kaito, we're both dying. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make it look like you died. But really, you're going to kill me. And we're going to like EMP the entire place so that Monokuma doesn't actually know who is murdered. In order to just break the entire game, and Kaito agrees. But they find out the truth, and Kaito is executed. And then immediately after that, chapter 6 starts, where Kibo, the ultimate robot, grabs a jetpack and laser cannon thing and all that, and tries to blow up the entire place. But Shiichi intervenes and says, right, we need one last trial, because we need to do a retrial of Rantoro's murder. So Kibo and Monokuma agree, and they realize that Kaede didn't actually kill Rantoro, because the ball that she was going to drop on him missed, but the mastermind came out and hit him with a saber ball in order to make it look like the coyote did. And the mastermind is actually Tsumugi, the ultimate cosplayer. And she said in the first chapter that she actually can't cosplay as real people because if she does that, she becomes visibly sick. Like she turns almost purple. But then she reveals she's the mastermind as she cosplays as Junko. And everyone knows who Junko is at this point. So they ask, how can you cosplay as Junko when Junko was real and you can't cosplay as real people? Turns out, Junko is not real. Everything I mentioned prior to D3 was just a TV show. And Killing Harmony is actually the 53rd season. So, once again, it's not a vote between hope and despair. But everyone actually abstains from voting. And instead, Kibo kills Tsumugi and himself. So the only survivors were Shuichi, Maki, and Himiko, the ultimate magician. Whether or not this is canon, I don't know. The 3-hour video said that it's an alternate universe. However, according to the Danganronpa iceberg, it's actually the creator's way of saying that it needs to stop before it gets too repetitive. I choose to believe that it's not canon. So, despite like that's the end, there are a couple other things that he mentioned. One, Happy Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp, which is it's an extended version of a board game that was included as a mini game in D3. Danganronpa 3, the end of Kibogame Gakujin, which Kibogame is the Japanese name for Hope's Peak. So this is obviously a stage version of In Hope's Peak. Danganronpa Kodaga, which is a non-fiction biography, whatever that means. Possible spin-offs. This is just a list of planned/cut spin-offs, which I will get into all these. Danganronpa Deifu. Actually, wait, this is... There we go, Danganronpa Deifu. The author of Danganronpa Togami originally wanted to write a spin-off based off Fushimi Yamada, who's the ultimate art fanfic creator. However, the idea was rejected by Kodaka, who, I just remember now, Kodaka is the creator of Danganronpa. In Open Summer Camp, the novel is briefly alluded to, because Hifumi claims that the game makes him the light novel protagonist he believed he should be. Possibly upcoming games or other media. Danganronpa Yumino, where the author of Kirigiri said he wanted to write a spin-off based off Himiko, about a person believing a fraud magician's trick is real magic, which is an antithesis to the Japanese drama Trick. I know nothing about it. Anyway, Danganronpa Mame. Kanaka expressed interest in letting someone write a spin-off about Rentoro traveling the world in search of his sisters. I forgot to mention that was revealed Rentoro's special ability. He's the ultimate survivor, because he was in season 52, and the way that season 52 and 53 worked is that only 2 survivors would remain. Anyone was still alive by the final vote, and they would have to sacrifice themselves by participating in the next killing game. Anyway, Danganronpa Shinguji, which just mentioned that fans would love to see a Korikiro spin-off. Ultra Despair Girls 2, which is referenced in D3, it's just a poster in one of the rooms, although it's possibly just a joke. And a Danganronpa fighting game, because Kodaka is interested in making that for some reason. Anyway, the document that I got all of this off ends with, if you see anything else that is not on this list relating to Danganronpa, such as other manga, Forcoma, or merch, it possibly isn't canon, but feel free to read it anyway. And that's it. I'm going to say Danganronpa is over because speculations of the developers are currently making another game, which it's going to be another series, because before making Danganronpa, they made a game called 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, which was sort of similar to Danganronpa, which is also great, but I'm not going to do a breakdown for it. And that series ended around the same time as D3 ended. You know, like D3 came out around the same time the first game of Zero. Right. 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors is part of a 3-part game series called Zero Escape. The second game came out the same year as D2, and the third game came out the same year as D3. And here's part where I'm probably just going to ramble, basically. So, Danganronpa is Japanese for bullet refute, because you refute statements by shooting bullets at them. You really have to look at yourself to understand what I'm talking about. The fan base suck. If you look up POV no follower figure, it will come up with people with like Twitter profile pictures of like trans flags and pride flags and all, and whatever anime that they're into, like a character from that as their profile picture behind a trans or pride flag, and a bunch of them were Danganronpa characters, especially Chiaki. As far from what I can think of, the biggest Danganronpa YouTuber is Dangan Mandy, who has 85.1k subscribers, and they don't show their face. Instead, they have their custom like version of Chiaki, where she's black and white except for her eyes, her bow, her bag, and a little bit of her hair. Actually, I'm going to show this on my phone. I said Yes, this is what I mean. That's Chiaki, but her hair is white. And her bag and possibly her bow are pink. There's no orange. So this Danganronpa, possibly the biggest Danganronpa YouTuber, also possibly the biggest trans YouTuber. Male to female. And these are all recent, but I've seen this video what non-Danganronpa fans think of Danganronpa.
This is the oldest game in the series.
Celebrate 10 years of Danganronpa. In despair.
I'd rather not. I will say the best thing to come out of this was that one TikTok from that guy Eli. That was funny. Danganronpa is trash!
I ever heard you talking about Danganronpa. You actually like that show? It's trash!
That's a lie! I kin Kokichi!
I actually kin Kokichi!
Who do you kin? Nagito?
I love the way that as soon as you mention Nagito, he appears in the Nintendo Direct. Anyway, I'm just going to show some audio from Mandy's from Just what he sounds like.
Agree with you, Coney. That video was hilarious.
I've noticed this as well watching Euphoria. I can't trans people speak English. I know that's, I can't speak English either, but I mean, that's just something I've noticed. Like, Hunter Schafer and Mandy, they just can't speak proper English for some reason. And I was actually watching one of his videos earlier, like right before making this video. And he pronounced hypnosis. Like, I don't even know. Okay, here it is.
Fred on homemade danganronpa transformation hypnosis tapes.
Hypnosis. And he's probably looking at a script. And I'm going to assume that script has been typed out correctly. No spelling errors. How do you look at HYPNOSIS and think, oh, there must be a T in there somewhere? Whatever. So yeah, like, basically the entirety of the danganronpa fan base are like this. Left-wing, trans, gay, Tumblr users, etc. And Discount Spencer, or, yeah, he is those things, but he says he hates the community. Explain that. Also, don't skip out something like danganronpa just because the community is bad. Yeah, the community is bad, but just don't pay attention to the community. I only did it because I didn't really have a choice because, books weren't translated in English and stuff like that. Because if people decided not to watch stuff based off what the fan base is like, no one would be watching Star Wars.